wondered what it takes to build and restore a house? Do you want to work alongside the pros? From carpentry to plumbing, landscaping, and masonry, we'll show you the tricks of the trades on This Old House Trade School. Sponsored by Home Advisor.
Kevin, we actually have a lot of backyard back here, but it's all covered with plants.
And the plan calls for a lot more grass, so much of this has to go.
These are all invasive plants that just keep growing and climbing into the backyard. You look here, this is called multiflora rose, and it's just a big mound with all thorns in it.
So no flowers, just thorns. It's coming out.
Take a look up top here. See that tree?
Actually, I don't see a tree. What is that?
That's a tree that's covered with bittersweet.
Really?
It's totally all covered with bittersweet to the point that it's making the tree droop over and it can kill it.
30 feet of bittersweet. That's incredible.
Yeah, and over here we even have some grapes growing in amongst all the stuff that's here.
So I'm thinking roses and grapes are good things, but you're telling me that they're taking over the backyard.
Well, here's an example. Look at the weight it's put on this branch. This grape is already pulling this branch down and will break it off.
How far back are you clearing?
We're going to clear back to the property line, which is right about here. We're actually hoping to give them 25 or 30% larger yard.
Wow.
See this?
Yeah.
That's a bittersweet vine.
That's bittersweet.
Unbelievable.
All right, so it's clearly out of control. How do you get all this stuff out of here? This is a lot of stuff to clear. You're going to come at it with chainsaws?
No, it's too thick for that. Usually we come in with a brush cutter if it was a little area, but for this we need the big dog, and that's this tool right here. Take a look at the blades on that.
Like a lawnmower on steroids.
Mounted on the skid steer, we're just going to drive in and it's going to cut everything up.
I can't wait to see this.
Kevin, take a look here. Imagine coming in here and trying to cut this out with all this wily stems.
How many guys, how much time you think?
I think it would have been 2 days with a whole bunch of guys. We're going to have this done in a few hours with this machine. And actually, look what it's leaving behind. It grinds everything up. We've actually got decent soil here to work with. Yeah, one thing the machine can't do is pull the vines out of the tree, so that's left up to us. Now, you can try to pull them, but they literally won't come down, or they can pull a branch down. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a pole pruner and just cut them up as high as we can.
Look at
Get
that.
rid of those, it'll make the whole place look a lot better. You won't see all that ugly vine hanging down. Got it?
Yeah, I got it. So this one isn't that big. How old do you think it is?
Oh, probably just 5 or 10 years old. This stuff really grows fast.
Wow, that stuff is aggressive.
You want to see something that's growing big, Kevin? Take a look in here. Look at the size of this bittersweet trunk.
Wow, bigger than a tree.
It's got to be 3 or 4 inches thick, and it's actually grown up into this cherry tree and killed it. So what we're going to do is we're going to clear the lower stuff out of here. We're going to drop this whole tree and take it down.
So this tree didn't make it. All right. But what a mess in here, huh?
All right, Kevin, this tree is so tucked in with all the vines tied up in there that we're going to pull it out using the machine.
Look at the whole tree just hung up in vines.
Here it goes. Stand back.
Unbelievable. Oh, yeah. That makes a
Look at that.
difference, right? So, Roger, I mean, if this stuff is so invasive and it grows so fast, how are you going to stop it from coming back?
Well, the trick is to keep it cut. So what we're going to do is we're going to put grass in here. You're going to cut the lawn every week, and that's going to keep those weeds from coming up, the invasives from coming up through, because you cut them off every week.
So this is going to be beautiful lawn.
Look how big it is now. Isn't it great?
Coming up next,
So this is called a balloon frame structure. It's really strong. What we want to do is sheathe it and stand it all up.
but first, here's a tip. Concrete is a material that is very strong in compression, but virtually without strength in tension. To compensate for this imbalance, reinforcement bar, or rebar, is often cast into concrete to carry the tensile loads. The ability to resist breaking under a pulling force is one of the most widely measured properties of materials used in structural applications. It is very important in material science and engineering.
All right, Tommy, so we're going to continue work on our little addition back here in the back of the house. It's going to be a new family room.
Yep.
We've got the foundation in. You put the deck on, so time to frame it up.
Time to frame it up. We've already pre-built some of the side walls here, but now I'm getting ready to build this wall right here. This is called the gable end.
Mm-hmm.
We got a couple of windows on each side of the fireplace, and we've got a window up top, and this is the firebox right here because it's going to be a gas fireplace. So these are the bones of the structure right here, so it shows the framing and how I'm supposed to lay it all out. Now we have a sill right here that will lay on the floor, and if you notice that the studs are continuous, they run all the way up to the rafters. So this is called a balloon frame structure. It's really strong. What we want to do is lay it out on the floor, sheathe it, and stand it all up.
All right, let's start building.
Okay.
What are you working on there, Tommy?
All right, what I've done is I've taken a piece of a 2x6 and I've located all of my horizontal measurements. All right, and on it I've marked my location for our windowsill height, our header height for our fireplace, and our header height for a window. I've measured from those points down to give me the lengths for our jack studs and our cripple studs.
So now we can make the cuts for all these pieces
Right.
just off of this story pole.
Exactly. I'll give this to Chris. He knows how many pieces to cut and what sizes to cut.
All right, let's get the sill in.
We position our sill plate on our chalk line and we fasten it using these metal straps. So when we stand this wall up, that wall won't slide off the platform.
We've laid out the information for the vertical pieces on our sill plate. And now Tom is transferring that information to the headers that Chris has already cut. Now, most builders don't insulate their headers, but we do. We use this piece of 1-inch foam insulation. It makes our header the exact thickness to match our 2x6 studs, and it adds some insulating value.
Good here.
All right, right here is the opening for the window at the upper gable end. We've made up our LVL header. Now let's get it. All right, now we're gonna lay 2 rafters on top of our studs so we can mark the angle at the top of the rafters. Now, let Norm and I get our bottom in first here, then you guys pull on it towards you to make it tight. All right, pull it up to you, Kevin. Now let me tap it to you. Okay, now line up the ridge with the center. All right, you got it up tight there and nice and even?
Yep.
All right, here, just tack this so it doesn't come apart. All right, good. Okay, now just make sure all our studs line up with the X's and then mark the angle at the top of them. All right, now we're going to move our rafter out of the way, and you can see our lines right here. That's what we're going to cut all along. Next thing I want to do is I want to measure down the thickness of the rafter, which is 1.5 inches right here. And I'm going to cut that with my saw. So, follow the angle. And cut the depth. The rafter will sit in there just like that.
Okay, here's the next one.
Okay.
Here's a quiz. What does it mean to bisect an angle? A, make it larger. B, make it smaller. C, divide it into a right angle and the resulting leftover angle. Or D, divide it into 2 equal parts. Stay tuned for the answer. Woodworkers often have to bisect angles to create mitered corners.
Line it up, push it right down onto there. There. All right, now you can see how the rafter sits flush with the sides. And when I nail that in there, now we've got a real nice, tight, strong connection there.
All the way down.
All right, let's start with that sheathing on this corner right here. Push it up right to the nails. Okay, make it even there, Kevin, on the outside.
Good.
Now we've overhung the sheathing past the sill plate, so when we stand the wall up, the sheathing will be even with the bottom of the fireplace. everything airtight. We're taping the seams, and then we're going to cut out the openings for the windows.
I like this idea of putting the trim on before we raise the wall.
Well, it's a lot easier to put this gable trim on while the wall is flat on the floor.
Now we're going to use these wall jacks to safely lift the wall into position. Alright, give it a little crank. Joe, give the cable some slack. Kevin, bring the wall jack in. A little more. Right there. Alright, this side's plump. Alright, easy. Right there. Alright, this wall is plumb and all set. That's it for the gable end.
Front of our house is getting a complete facelift. We've pulled off all the clapboards and we're going to replace those. We've also pulled out all the windows and they're getting reconditioned. Now we're going to save the window sills. We've got 9 of them. They're all in good shape except for one, and that's what Tommy's working on. Tommy, how's it looking up here?
Well, it's actually looking pretty good, Kevin. We actually thought that this windowsill was rotted because the see the way it's pitched back into the house? That's how the water was getting into the wall.
What you're saying, it's not rotted?
Well, I don't think it's rotted. What I want to do is pull the windowsill out and find out what's going on. Alright, so we'll just pull it out. You can see here I get a couple of nails here somewhere.
Let's get that insulation out of there. How's that sill look?
Actually, the sill looks pretty good.
Okay.
What's happened is right here below this line, there should have been a little piece of wood. That acts like a shelf that holds the sill up against tight against this line right here.
So it's actually the jam that failed, not the sill.
Right. Now we need to cut a couple of pieces to sit right down there on the line. Like that. This is one for one side. Now I'm going to do this side. So what I'm going to do is slide it in. I'm going to mark my length. Now this side's a little bit different, so I actually have to cut this on a wedge. So I want to measure for the thickness of the windowsill right here. So I got to take 1/4 inch out of the front edge and taper it up to nothing. So 1/4 up to nothing. So I want to cut a taper just like that. All right, now I've cut our 2 pieces and they're put in place. Now so they don't move when we put the sill in, I'm gonna screw them in place. All right, now we're ready to slide our sill in. Okay, now I want to get below our cut up top there.
Yep.
I'm going to get the window stool up a little bit.
Okay.
All right, now we got to get this down. That's right. See when you move that jam over, that windowsill's going to sit right in that groove. All right, so why don't we put a shim right where your hammer handle is?
You got a block, because that's a big space.
We need to wedge that over. Get a shingle down there. Fat end in down. There you go. Get that in there.
Okay.
And bang that shingle in good. Yeah, look at that. It's coming right over. Alright. Nice. Now we have to do the same thing on this side. So I'm going to put my fat side in first. I'm going to drive the other one in, creating a wedge to push that right over. Moves that over. That's good. That's not going anywhere. Alright, the next thing I want to do is cut off the shims. Okay, now with the shims cut, we're ready to insulate this cavity right here because a lot of cold air can get in there. We're going to insulate it on both sides.
Coming up next,
The only way we're going to find out what's under the ceiling is to take it down. Well, the bad news is there's plumbing that's down below the ceiling joist.
but first, on the job. Architects plan and design houses, factories, office buildings, and other structures. There are typically 3 main steps to becoming a licensed architect: completing a professional degree in architecture, gaining relevant experience through a paid internship, and passing the architect registration examination. In 2014, approximately 1 in 5 architects were self-employed.
Alright, now on this side of the window, I'm using what is normally used around a window, a minimal expanding foam. The reason is I don't want the side jambs of the window to bow in. That way you wouldn't be able to operate the window. Now we have a large gap on that side. We're going to use a different type of foam. That foam will expand a lot. To stop the side jams from bowing in, I've cut a stick the right width, and I'm going to jam it into the opening. Now when the foam on that side cures, that jam will stay nice and straight. Alright, the next thing I want to do is a strip of felt paper up the side of the window. This is a soft flasher. So I'm going to put it in like that, and I'm going to staple it into position. I want to get it behind the windowsill. Bring it in there like that. Okay, and just a couple of tacks. Slide that piece behind the edge of the windowsill. And I want it on top of this tar paper down here. Just a couple of tacks in that. Alright, now we're ready for the side casing. Now, I've got 2 pieces of 5/4. And I've cut the angle at the bottom to match the angle of our sill. So I'm going to put it in place and mark our length. Now later on, we're going to remove this trim here. But I want to put these on tonight because we need to close this opening up with our stone window. Alright, now I want to prime that edge. Okay, now we're ready to install it. Next thing I want to do is I want to run a bead of caulking right down the side here. Another one right across the bottom, just like that. That'll seal that.
Okay, piece coming in.
Yeah, bring it in. We want to keep it over in just like that, about 1/2 inch from the edge. Right about there. Let me check my reveal. I want about 1/2 inch. That's good there.
FYI,
Alright, you want to nail that in place?
I have been doing exactly
So,
what
Tommy, this is
Tom
all
Silver's
of the
been
trim for this
doing
window, but we got 8 more to do up front.
8 more to do
30
up front. We still have the gable end
plus
windows to
years,
do, and
maybe
we have the
35
soffit
plus
and the
years.
fascias to do. So we got a lot
I
of
know
work to do and trim work
exactly
along.
All right, we'll be out here for a while.
exactly how much Tommy knows. I have my own company in doing this. It is
It's been a good
called
day, Norm. Made a lot of
God's
progress
Carpentry,
outside, but you still want to do some demo inside.
Right, the
Construction,
homeowners really do not like this
landscaping,
ceiling. It's right over the
restoration, and
kitchen.
repair.
It's very low and it's not very
That
attractive.
is the name of
What
my
they would
company.
like is some nice exposed beams like we have right here, hand-hewn beams. The only way we're going to find out what's under the ceiling is to take it down.
All right, let's go film. Got some plumbing. Line lines.
See, I know all about carpentry and construction and landscaping, restoration and repair.
Well, the bad news is there's plumbing that's down below the ceiling joists. The good news is all the plumbing is in one bay.
So what are you thinking? Maybe we can box this out and leave the rest of it exposed?
Possibility.
Well, that's a decision for the homeowner, so we'll check with them.
Yeah, I know everything what they do. I just like watching the show to know that I'm still
When you see